see you all here. I see lots of my friends on the call, colleagues, and so very delighted to welcome all of you to this month's webinar by the leadership group. And it's actually quite special, this today's webinar, because I've got a really long-standing friend of mine as the facilitator today, Mike Eldon. I'm sure many of you on this call know or have seen, have heard about, have read articles or books by Mike Eldon. I'll be introducing him shortly. It's just after 11, and so I'd like us to kick off. We have about 30 people in the room, but there will be people joining us during the course of the call. So on the basis that you have been very prompt, I don't want to keep you waiting. I'll just make a few introductory remarks and then I'll invite Mike and we'll get going. As usual, we promise to release you by 12 o'clock exactly, 12 noon, so that you can continue with your nation building activities. So my name is Martin Oduor-Otieno, and I'm the Executive Director of the Leadership Group. A number of you have interacted with us either on our calls before or on some of our programs. So I'd like to welcome you in a special way and to thank you for being here with us again today. I'm also glad to welcome Mike Eldon, our guest speaker in today's webinar. He'll be talking about a subject which is close to our hearts for many of us, making customer journeys enjoyable. We all have got our experiences around customer journeys, customer experience. We are all in leadership positions, and therefore we either offer or receive services in one form or another. So, you know, Mike is going to be taking us through a journey there. I also have my colleagues on the call from the leadership group. I've got Kelly Muigai, who is going to be ensuring that we are all running smoothly throughout the call. I've got Christabel Boro, I've got Obare Nyaega, Kefa Bosire and Percy Opio, who are on the call or will be joining us shortly. So Mike will talk for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A session. As I've mentioned, we aim to close off at about 12. I would encourage you to post any comments or questions you have in the chat box during the course of the conversation. For those of you who have interacted with us, just to say that at the leadership group, we are focused very much in the area of leadership, governance, board practice, coaching and mentorship, strategy, culture, communication. So all the components around leadership, that's where we work, that's our sweet spot. And therefore, if you want to engage in any of those areas, please do get in touch. Kelly is going to be putting in the chat box our contacts, our program of activities for the year, our email, LinkedIn. Feel free to follow us and to join our future programs, because once you attend one of our webinars, you become an alumni of the leadership group. So always welcome to receive communication from us and to attend our programs. Let me take the opportunity now to introduce Mike so that we don't waste any more time. So as I mentioned, Mike probably, as the saying goes, does not need introduction. But let me just mention that he's chair and lead facilitator at the depot, Dan Eldon Place of Tomorrow, which is a management consultancy that focuses on leadership, strategy, culture, customer engagement, change management, performance management, and coaching. And he works with clients in corporate, family business, government entities, NGOs. He's recently done a lot of work with the World Bank and GIZ. As I mentioned, those areas, actually, it almost looks like a mirror of what we do at the leadership group, which is not surprising because we have actually collaborated with Mike on a number of our own programs, etc. So, you know, thanks, Mike, for that collaboration. Prior to becoming a consultant, Mike's career was in leading ICT companies. He's been living in Kenya since 1977 and is currently the chairman of Occidental Insurance. He's an independent director of Davis and Shirtliff, and I see David Gatende has joined us here, who is also a member of the board of Davis and Shirtliff. Mike is a co-founder of the Institute for Responsible Leadership. He's an advisor to the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and that's an interesting space because as we go into the elections in 2 months' time in August, it might be interesting just to hear some perspectives, if you have time, from Mike on the national cohesion and integration work that he's doing. Throughout his long career, Mike has been an advocate for customer engagement, whether as a manager, a board member, a consultant, or a writer. As a result of the infinite number of customer journeys he has traveled, he has guided many individuals and organizations on how to help such journeys be good ones. And we are privileged this morning to really be in his presence to share some of this with him. Mike is also a past chairman of the council and a fellow of the Kenya Institute of Management. He's a past chairman of the Council of KCA University. And I dare say that when KCA awarded me an honorary doctorate in business leadership, Mike was chair of council, and I can still see him in some of the photographs that we took that afternoon, Mike. He's also a founder director of KEPSA. He's been its vice chairman and is now a member of its advisory council. As you can see, it's quite a long introduction of Mike here, but I think it's important that we get to know the person that is going to be sharing with us his experience here. Mike's business daily column, in which he writes about leadership, culture, customer focus, and related topics, has seen nearly 400 articles now published. Wow. He appeared on NTV's AM Live Leadership Forum as a panelist and is now on the KTN's morning show. He's also published a book in 2009, Kenyans, Yes We Can. I was privileged to write a few comments at the back of that book, which is a collection of some of his articles and speeches. And he was also the editor of his wife, Evelyn Mungai's book, From Glass Ceilings to Open Skies. Finally, in 2021, Business Monthly magazine nominated him as the 10th most influential chairman in Kenya. And in 2022, Business Monthly acknowledged him as the 9th most influential chair of boards impacting business. In 2021 also, Women on Boards Network Kenya nominated him as first runner-up in the male champion of the women's agenda category. Mike is an economics graduate from the University College London and a graduate of London Business School, Sloan Masters in Strategy and Leadership program. Let me invite Mike to take it off from here. Welcome and thank you, Mike, for being with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Martin. I thought you were going to consume my whole speaking slot with the introduction. I could speak at equal length about you and our connections together. Like when I was chairman of Kenya Institute of Management, you were chairman of ISPAC, and that's how we first got to know each other when you asked me to plant a tree on what later became the KCA campus when you were its chairman, and you invited me to join the council, whose chairman I later became. And you and I could talk at much more about all the things we've enjoyed doing together. And I'm really pleased, as I always am with you, Martin, to be doing work together. I think this is going to be an extremely informal occasion because I can't remember the last time I saw Martin without a tie.
Yeah, you know, COVID has taught us many things, Mike. Part of it is just the way we dress has changed over the last 2 years. We become less formal. We've recognized the value of life. And so we take things, you know, as not as tightly as we used to.
Yeah, and you're speaking as a banker and as a former permanent secretary in the Treasury. Yes.
Thanks,
Welcome
Mike.
to the 21st century. So good to be with you all, including, of course, David Gatende, the Group CEO of Davis Shirtliff. I also spotted his silent arrival.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Martin.
David is retiring at the end of this month, joining the board with me, being kicked upstairs. And I know he has a lot of wonderful things to continue doing. I'm sure he'll be a great one to be on this webinar in future, Martin. So let me share my screen. Yeah, there we are. And get going on this customer journey one. In fact, I prefer customer journey to customer experience. It really speaks to me, this, you know, from when you are greeted or not greeted by the askari at the gate, who forgets that in addition to being responsible for security, he also has a hospitality dimension, or she has a hospitality dimension to their work. Right the way through to when you leave. And again, that's the last person you're with. So the customer journey is a term I like, and we'll be talking a lot in different ways about making them enjoyable and what that delivers. I keep admitting people. I don't know, can someone do the admitting?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Just leave that alone. Kelly will do that, Mike.
Okay. I don't know why I'm not able to move my slides forward. Your screen sharing, yeah.
Try escaping once and see if that makes a difference.
Okay. All right.
I don't know why I'm not able to move my thing forward.
Can you pull it down and bring it up again? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so it's always good for each of us to reflect on our own customer journeys and how we get treated as customers, and to reflect on that in order to reflect on how, where we work in our organizations, we provide customer journeys. And I think too many people don't make that connection between what they provide and what is provided to them. And people don't appreciate that the journeys they offer to their customers, which they haven't experienced, are not as enjoyable as they could be. Martin and I were talking this morning about some promotion of an organization this morning that was talking about how wonderfully it treated their customers. And it was one where he and I just last week were talking about some less than wonderful experiences I had recently been having. So a lot of people are out of touch with these customer journeys in their organizations. And it's why I urge you to relate how you experience customer journeys with other organizations with how you offer them in yours. Oh, good, it's progressing. So here are some of the questions I'll be commenting on in the next few minutes. So which are the weak and the strong points? Maybe the askari is a very friendly one. And of course, there are many places where they are. Now, in some places, it's just because that's the normal, cheerful Kenyan personality. In others, like I know the Hilton have done in the past, maybe they're still are doing it. They train them despite the turnover of such people. What are the strong and the weak points? How empowered are your customer-facing staff? It's so important for customer journeys to enable your customer-facing staff to make judgments. And how engaged are they? Because if they're not engaged, they wouldn't be interested in exercising such power anyway. How well are complaints dealt with? We always let, all of us, we occasionally let people down. None of us is perfect. So what happens when there is a problem? Maybe not our fault, maybe beyond our control. And when there is a problem, how are such problems appropriately escalated? And another one is this expectations management, an awful problem that I'll be talking about and shedding tears over later. I'm being blocked down here by all these other Zoom things. So yeah, these non-technical skills, Martin and I, when we were working with the Harvard Kennedy School as faculty members of the Aga Khan Graduate School of University Graduate School of Media and Communications, their adaptive leadership is all about not over focusing only on the technical skills of people, but on their non-technical skills to complement the technical ones. Too many people, particularly those with technical backgrounds who themselves have inadequately developed their non-technical skills, inadequately develop those of the people around them. So, it's stuck again. I don't know if it's because of all this. Now I can't even escape to the smaller one. Oh, here we go. No, yeah. Yeah, so here are some stars. And I'm sure you have some stars, you know. I don't know if any of you recognize any of these people and places. Top right is one of my favorite restaurants, the Palette Cafe on Lavington, in Lavington on James Gishuru. And they now have others as well. And they only employ deaf waiters. And the customer journeys we enjoy when we're at the Palette Cafe are just wonderful. These waiters are so friendly. We enjoy our instant, informal sign language capabilities. The food is lovely, and the customer journeys are unparalleled with deaf-only waiters. In the middle there is my hearing lady, Seema Shah, just so concerned with us having the best possible service, not just as a one-off when you see her, but following up. Just a delightful lady, and goes so far beyond having the best and the latest technology and technical skills. She's a prime one with the non-technical skills. And bottom left, the street newspaper and magazine vendors, who are such a delightful bunch of characters. They could be professors of customer engagement because of the way in which they engage with us as we drive down a highway, and they offer us their little product and are so graceful if we just don't want to take it. So just think of your stars, and are some of them in your own organization? Because in this country of ours, most people are naturally friendly and hospitable. And if they're not, the question is, why not? So here are my three, just, and I could fill this screen with so many more stars, but I just picked these three out for you to be stimulated into thinking about others. Some years ago, and Mr. Gatenda, you'll remember, we had Jan Mohammed of Serena Hotels talk to us at the Davis and Shirtliff conference. And he was talking about customers and how to deal with them well. And of course, Serena has been one of the role models for this. And he told us that he was telling his staff that it's not a question of whether Serena is better than other existing local hotels. He challenged them to say, what if the best in the world, the Tajas or the Oberois, came to Kenya? Gosh, we have some wonderful hotels here and some wonderful hospitality. I was at Tribe the other day, and they just couldn't be thrilled to bits enough with seeing us, and so delighted we were there and making sure we were happy. And in a country where there are such wonderful service providers, if you're not one of those, then you really have a problem. And so in this one with customers, when you ask people, so where do you think you are with your customer engagement? Oh, on a scale of 1 to 10. And in my experience, hardly anyone gives replies other than between 6 and 10 out of 6 and 8 out of 10, wherever they may be. They don't want to appear too boastful to say they're above 8, and they don't want to admit being below 6, including those who are well below 6. And for those that I have worked with who are well below 6, and I have worked with some of these, I ask them, are you really 6 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, as they would like to suggest that they are? Or are you 8 out of 20? Or maybe even 30? What is this unexplored territory you don't even know exists? And how do you get into it, find out what happens there, and help your people get there, which I will keep repeating, in a country like ours is so possible, so very possible, with so many exemplars. Kenya Airways, when we're in the flights with them, very good. The welcome there is, until today, I think most people, most of the time, feel happy. We'll come on later what happens with their ground staff, but they're good with all of these key requirements of being good with customers, engaging with customers, the eye contact, the smiling, the conversation. A relationship building is difficult except in the upper classes, and the light touch. And there are particular airlines that are so well known for this in America, Southwest, where when they welcome you on board and stuff, it's all jokes and sketches. And Virgin, with the example of their founder head, Richard Branson, and we'll come on to some of his quotes soon. And so if you are to have an enjoyable customer journey, and where you do, it's not just because people know the product or know how to deal with the payment, the task efficient sides, but they delight you. You're so happy to be there, and you want to come again and be with them because of the experience, because of the enjoyable journey, not just because they sell a good product or a good service at a good price. To go further with this one, last year, I had a really bad COVID, as some of you know, and as I've written about in some of my articles. And I had this, as I call it now, worm's eye view of how customer journeys are in a hospital. And it's a very challenging environment. And more so it was during the time of COVID, when nurses and doctors and everyone was so stretched. And yet, within that same environment, at that same time, there was this whole spectrum from those who made me as a patient feel so good to be there, so well cared for, and those who were completely disengaged from me, who were totally task focused, perhaps with great competence, but didn't greet me, no eye contact, didn't ask me how I was, didn't tell me what they were doing, etc. And as I started talking about this, eventually at a different hospital, and it was actually with the CEO of Gertrude's Children's Hospital, he told me about this wonderful book, If Disney Ran Your Hospital. And Fred Lee had been running a hospital, and then he went on to Disney and he wrote this book. So the question that is asked here is, okay, so other than these basics that you have to do in a hospital, what makes a hospital, a health facility, where patients want to keep coming there if they have other health problems, and what makes them recommend that hospital to others who need care? So here's the flow. The first thing is to identify yourself as you come into the ward or into the room. Greet the patient. Make small talk to relax them and reduce their anxiety. And then to build their confidence, mention in passing somehow your expertise and your experience. For instance, as you inject them to take blood, which some people, I don't know why they're so anxious about, and just make them feel relaxed and confident that you know what you're doing and it's going to be okay. Very importantly, and I found this, tell us what you're doing and why and how it works. Give us a little bit of background, not too much, not technical. And then, as the good men and women always do, ask if there's anything else we need. Is there anything else you need? Maybe it's a cup of tea. Maybe it's got nothing to do with what they do. And if it is a cup of tea, it's a test of how well a nurse, for instance, relates to the kitchen, which often is not too good. As we were getting in advance the registrations, there was a dermatologist at one hospital who asked what makes journeys enjoyable in public sector hospitals. And what I would say is, here's the sort of thing that makes customer journeys, well, enjoyable, that's maybe an overstatement, but relaxed and calm in any hospital. And here's a book. I don't know if that dermatologist person is on this webinar, but if you are, sir, do go for this book and see how Disney treats its customers as guests. And of course, a hospital is a hotel plus all the life and death stuff. So hospitals have guests, just like Disney does in its Disney World. Patients or guests. And as I was talking to the matron of this hospital where I was, she and I talked a lot about the need for nurses in particular to show empathy and compassion. They're two closely related words. I don't think I need to go into the difference between them here, but any salesperson, and I'm just taking this extreme example here of a hospital, any salesperson needs to put themselves in the shoes of the customer and to be human and not just a robot, as though you are some sort of automated system, to be caring and to engage. Let me come back to the airline before you get onto the plane, because that's such a difficult job to be one of the ground staff. You're at JKI there, people are queuing, there are flight delays and cancellations, there's no information about it, your systems hang up, and they've been through all this multiple security hoops. It's by the time you get there to have them check you in, you're a nervous wreck and you're exhausted. So where are they in all of this? And how do they, stuck again. Not diminishing. Back in life. So those who manage such people, those who manage people in situations that are often or even all the time more stressful, how are they helped to deal with their stress? How are they helped to separate how they feel and wanting to just walk out or tell that unreasonable by then customer to get lost? How do they separate their feelings from their behavior and keep smiling and remain engaged and calm the passenger down and make them feel good that they chose this airline? It's a big challenge. And again, some meet it. What do they have in common? How can you get more join that end of the spectrum of people who, even in the most stressful situations, are solution-oriented, are friendly, are caring? Is it something you're born with? Is it the way your parents treated you? I mean, who knows? But that's the challenge, isn't it? So here are some thoughts about what engagement is. And you can read these for yourself. Engaged to marry, engaging gears, committed in battle. That's what we talk about when we talk about engagement. We think of these kinds of commitments. I'm stuck again. Who knows why I get unstuck? So where there is staff engagement, customer engagement is likely to follow. I think this is something that's very widely known now, but in so many situations, it's not how it happens. We have not worked on having our staff be engaged with the organization, with its leadership. And so we definitely cannot expect customers to be engaged. And a lot of it is to do with how empowered our staff are. To what extent do we trust them? And so they can make judgments on the spot, in the front office, at the desk with the customer, so that the resolution to any issue is quick. And very related to that, the judgment often is between being mean, saying, no, we can't do that, no, it's your fault, and being generous. Even more generous than a fair, equitable solution, because it is this that generates loyalty and repeat business. And the next one, of course, is, do you support and encourage them? The basics of motivation that works better in some environments than in others. So here's Branson, and I'm just putting up some of these quotes. You can find them as I did on Google, but I've been familiar with them for many years. Just read them for yourselves here about respect for everyone. Stuck again. Begins at the top. One of the other questions before we started was, what is a strategy to ensure top management support in designing and sustaining customer experience activity? Well, it's not others advising the top, it's the top where it must start, like it does here with Richard Branson, who from time to time actually goes to that front office desk and sells tickets, who acts as, for a little while, as a steward on an aeroplane to get that sense and to help others get the sense of this customer experience, and to bring other senior managers on a regular basis with that front office customer facing experience, so they can't be detached from what it takes and from what is actually going on. And this one that we talked about already, take care of your employees, they'll take care of the clients. I'm getting used to this stuck unstuck thing with some random reason for it unsticking. Exceed the expectations in unexpected and helpful ways. Now I'll give you an example shortly from experience I had some years ago with Virgin, and that your place where they buy, where they fly, should be a fun place to be. A fun place to be. You can see this guy smiling, huh? He's enjoying running his business. So here's something about dealing with complaints. And this organization there in this cartoon is
Mike,
obviously...
Mike, your screen is probably stuck. I don't see the cartoon.
Ah, again,
I see the three Branson faces, but I don't see the cartoon.
Do you
Am
see
I the
it
only
now?
one? No, Kelly, are you seeing the cartoon?
No, I'm not.
No, we are not.
Yeah. Scene is black.
Are you seeing it now?
Not yet.
This is very frustrating. I'm impeding your customer journeys. What shall I do? Can we unshare my screen and then I reshare it? Also?
Yes, please.
Let me see.
Kelly, can you help?
Yes. I can also try and share the screen from my end. Will that work, Mike?
Yeah, okay. From the set of slides I sent you last night, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right.
You'll let us know when you've done that, huh?
Absolutely.
How many more minutes do you want me to go on for, Martin?
I think, Mike, if you go on for another 5 to 7 minutes, max.
Okay. Okay, so we've got that one now?
Yes, we can see the cartoon now.
Okay, so the guy on the left is miserable enough. The lady on the right is even more miserable. Complaints about how we handle complaints. So anyway, I've got stories about a really dreadful British Airways complaint where they eventually, after a lot of toing and froing, gave me a £10 discount of my next duty-free purchase in one of their planes, which was pathetic. And a Virgin Atlantic one where after their video system broke down in the plane, as we were leaving the flight, we were given air miles vouchers there and then, before any complaints, before anything else, with apologies. That was quite extraordinary and a manifestation of Branson's approach to keeping customers loyal. When Virgin Atlantic was flying here, I didn't want to fly with anyone else on routes that they covered. And a final one from News Cafe in Sarit Center. They brought me a cappuccino and someone I was with another one, and they didn't bring me the little biscuit that comes with it. And I complained. I said, hey, with a light touch, why did he get the biscuit and not me? And the waitress went, and she came back with 2 biscuits for me. Isn't that nice? Being generous to customers. That was a lovely one. Next slide. So when I have a customer complaint, I ask them, so how will you restore my confidence in your organization? And it's interesting always to see how people respond to that, if they do, which some don't. And as I've said before, to and fro correspondence in writing, on email, etc., rarely solves the issue. And for me, and this is what David Gatende and I share often at Davis and Shirtliff, even there we sometimes have the occasional customer problem. We expect that once there is a problem, the way it is solved leaves your customer even more delighted with you than if the problem hadn't arisen in the first place. That's my expectation if there is a problem in an organization where I'm involved. Next screen. Here's an example of a great guy, Philip Kandie. He's the head of the New York station of Kenya Airways. And he worked with someone who was coming to Kenya who was having problems with her visa being confirmed. And she was checking in with a lady at the check-in desk who told her, sorry, you can't fly. No, I don't think she said sorry. She just said, you can't fly. And she was devastated because she thought it had been confirmed. And my daughter, who was with this young lady, saw this gentleman at the next desk working with someone. And my daughter thought, well, maybe he can help. And he turned out to be the station manager, and he sorted the whole problem out quickly. And so he was the rescuing hero. But then the question was, how come there was such a difference between the escalated solution and the first point of contact? The customer journey would have ended in disaster instead of relief and excitement at being able to go ahead with the flight. Next one, please. When my daughter arrived here with this lady, we were having lunch at a place where Michael Joseph was sitting at the table behind, the chairman of Kenya Airways. I don't know if Martin, you were still a director, maybe or maybe not. And so I told Michael the story of this, and he immediately texted someone in Kenya Airways to recognize the guy who did the good job. Next one. This is a great thing that needs a lot of care, and people need help in when and how and to whom to escalate. A lot of people do it too soon because they don't have confidence in themselves. Some do it too late. Some don't do it at all. And better you do it than the customer does. That was a big journey, a big lesson I learned when I was running IT companies. I would encourage the people who reported to me to escalate problems with me, and I could talk with my counterparts at the higher level instead of their people escalating to them with all the defensiveness and blame shifting that would result in a distorted view when that person finally contacted me to complain in often an unreasonable way. Next. This is the biggest one of all as a problem. Kenyans, if they have no update, if they're embarrassed that something is not to happen, we too often just stay quiet. We don't know what to say, or we have nothing to say. And I remember many years ago reading this wonderful book by Tom Peters, and he introduced me to this term, over-communicating. Update, 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 and before a deadline is missed, and then regularly. I'd love to talk more about this, but I know Martin won't let me. Next slide. So here we are with the non-technical skills, with communicating, and with solutions rather than products, with proposals rather than mere price and product quotes, and with viewing yourself, whatever you're selling, as having this consultant's mindset rather than a mere salesman's mindset. And this emotional intelligence to know how to engage in win-win relationships so that you win and the customer wins. These are the three essences, I would say, of the non-technical skills. And let's just keep going so I end soon. I wrote an article some months ago about the good guys and the bad guys in different organizations. One of those I singled out was Kenya Power. There are some wonderful guys in Kenya Power. There are wonderful guys in all parastatals and government bodies. There are also some awful guys and some awful systems. And so in your organizations, presumably, let's go back to the previous one, there are also good guys and bad guys. Do you know who the good guys are? Do you recognize them? Do they help others join who they are and how they operate? And where are the senior most people among all of this? The next one. Just look at these cartoons. Let me not talk about them. You can just reflect for yourself. At this hospital, we have to keep writing paper forms with our name, address, phone number, ID, whatnot, time after time after time. Is that the case with your organization? Next one. The systems, are they so ponderous that you queue forever and the queues are therefore very long? When you've gone automated like so many banks have, is it just so frustrating that you just don't want to deal with them ever again? And it's never the same person and they send you from person to person. You know what I'm talking about. I don't have to elaborate. And here's a related one. This is wonderful. You go to Google cartoons, what you find, and about this need for not simply automating, but holding on to, as Sunny Bindra mentioned again last weekend, the humanity, the human touch. Don't talk to me about one-time password frustrations when new systems come in. I'm sure you've all had your negative experiences here and internationally. Eventually it settles. I think we don't have time for these. If we're circulating the slides, people can see them for themselves and analyze them. Silo smashing, vital. And gosh, if I had the slides, I'd know how to move. Back to negotiating to win-win, just go forward. Yeah, let me end on this one. The best way I have found to help customer-facing staff to do better is to have them in workshops do role plays with each other. One member of staff plays the unreasonable customer, one plays the role of the salesperson, and they try and sort out the situation. David knows I do this with Davis and Shirtliff. So let me just end there to say, make sure that you know what's going on in your organization, make sure the good guys are recognized and the bad guys are migrated to join them.
Wow, thank you so much, Mike. So many great insights there. It's interesting, you know, just sitting here listening to you, Mike, that a lot of what you say sound very, very simple. And yet it is in that simplicity that the frustration then comes in, because we then just don't get it right many a time. And if we had more time, we would obviously get some experiences from participants here. But let me open it up. We've got about 5 minutes or so. So let's take some comments. I don't see any in the chat box, so I'll allow you just to raise your hand and voice your comments. There's comments around excellent presentation, very insightful, simple and profound. So thanks, Mike. Let's hear something that is in your mind, is kind of bothering you, concerning you, where you don't necessarily agree with what Mike has said. You know, when you put up that book, If Disney Ran Your Hospital, Mike, and you listed those bullets, I don't know how many there were. I thought you were talking about the coaching practice, because those bullets just sounded like what we as executive coaches do, you know, and there's a number of coaches in the room here I can recognize from their names. And so it seems to me like this should apply across all service areas, everything that we are trying to do, you know, greeting, explaining what you want to do, you know, explaining, you know, at the end of it, you know, what more can you get, etc. I didn't take down all the bullets, but it just sounded to me like a coaching session on how we bring people into that space. So thank you for sharing that.
It's a general leadership thing, isn't it? And increasingly, we are advocating a coaching style of leadership, a coaching style of performance management. And it's because you have concern for your customer, who is the person reporting to you, to have them be at their best. And the more you can have them be relaxed and feel that they're being taken care of, the more ambitious they'll be, the more creative they'll be, the more engaged they'll be, and the more they'll fulfill their potential.
Yeah, absolutely. David Gatende, you are in the room here and you work closely with Mike, but I just wanted to put you on the spot a little, now that I don't see any of the hands up. If you could, in 2 minutes, just share with us a customer journey or a space where you have really delighted your customers at Davis and Shirtliff in the recent past or in the not so recent past. Anything that comes to mind that is relevant to our conversation today?
Well, thank you, Martin, and thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate the presentation very much. I liked one of the first points you made, Mike, about connecting good experiences that we have in private with what we offer our customers at work. And you know, you talked about relating with the Askari at the beginning and at the end. And I know that when I have my wife and I have reflected on places we've had good experiences, it has always been either to do with the phone call that was picked up very quickly. Like for instance, I have been, as Mike mentioned, I'm retiring next week. So I have literally got 5 days next week and tomorrow. These are the last days of my 36-year career. And so I've been going around saying goodbye to staff. And so we were in Ongata Rongai with Margaret, who runs our 50 branches in Kenya. And we came under a billboard just near the parking with our telephone number. I said, okay, let's call the number. It's on the billboard. And fortunately, it was picked up mara moja. Within one ring, it was picked up, and I commended the young engineer who picked up the phone call. So like the Askari, the first contact with the customer, whether it's on the phone or on a website, as nowadays, that's what we're doing is a lot of online trading. The first contact is very important, but then how you follow it up. So your points about the system and the queues and so on, we are in the process of analyzing this very, very carefully, because I have to admit, if I can be a little different, Mike, I wouldn't say we are a 6, we're probably a 4 or a 5 as Davis and Shirtliff compared to where we want to be. And so I asked Titus to join us because Margaret wasn't available, but we're looking at doing a project. We are in the process of doing a project to improve the whole customer journey, as you said. So it's good in patches, but what my wife and I have noted is that where there is continuous training, and I think you mentioned, Mike, that it's some company where they do it all the time, despite the high turnover, that's where you get the best service. And it's not something you do once and stop, but you've just got to keep training your staff and retraining them, and the support staff, the Askaris, the telephonists, people online, etc. So that's what I'd have to share. Thank you for asking.
I'll just say quickly that those who are the most ambitious are those who are most likely to rate themselves lower rather than higher, because they know they can do better still.
Thanks, Mike. So I've got two questions, and then we'll close off, Mike, because we only have 3 minutes to go. One is on the chat, which is, there's this cardinal rule that says the customer is always right. Any comment on that, Mike? And then Alan Kimani has raised his hand, and I'd like him to ask his question so that you take the two of them together, and then we'll close. Alan?
Okay, hi. And great to see you, Martin. And how are you all? Thank you. So I just, my background is has been largely public sector, although I've had stints in the private sector. So I just wanted Mike to share his view on, because he's talked about customer centricity starting at the top. How do we change this paradigm in the public sector? In the private sector, I think we've got it more or less covered. I know there are some issues here and there, but it's handled and there's proactivity there. But how about the public sector, Mike? What are your views? How do we change that? Given now, those leaders are also chosen in some very different and dynamic ways, and we're talking about an election season here. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so couple of quick ones then. Is the customer always right? No. The question then is, how do you engage with the customer so that you still get to that adequacy of win-win? And it might require escalation. It might well require escalation, people with bigger judgment to see what concessions you can make, even though they are not right, so that you can retain them as a customer, get future business, and they don't walk away in disgust. But meanwhile, having hopefully, if they're rational rather than unreasonable, persuading them that maybe after all, what they were seeking was not reasonable. The other one with the public sector, gosh, when Martin Odwar was permanent secretary in the Treasury, he was very customer focused. In fact, when we were working with him on culture transformation, it was all about moving from having energy being sucked inwards and upwards to having it flow downwards from him and outwards to the beneficiary in the community. And so we have to spot the good guys, and they do exist. They exist at JKIA among the immigration people. They exist all over the place. And we don't expect them to. When you see them, it's like a surprise. And so who in the public sector is worrying about these sorts of issues? Where is the public service ministry? Where is Margaret Kobia? Where is Kenya School of Government? Where is the selection of board members to include people who are customer focused? And how do we get this kind of switch from these people who, however awful they are in the office or wherever they're serving, to not switch off that side of themselves when they come to the office? But it's all to do with leadership, all to do with who the CS is, who the PS is, or the chair or CEO of the parastatal or the governor, whatever. That's where it comes from.
Mike, thank you so much for that. I don't think we want to dilute your last statements there by any further kind of communication or statements from ourselves. I think just to thank you so much, Mike, for these insights, for coming through and really sharing with us what matters in this space. And really the onus is now on us as leaders on this call and our other associates and colleagues to take this agenda forward so that we help to build a great leadership culture, a great customer journey, customer experience, and ultimately, of course, that will only help grow us and grow our institution. So I'd like to thank you, Mike. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for this webinar. We've got our next webinar sometime towards the end of June. Kelly, I don't know what the date is, but you will certainly get the communication now that we've got your contacts with us. And look out to our other programs as well. I've just put in the chat box for those of you who are interested in board type programs. We have a 2-day program on the 22nd of June. It's going to be, I think, in Mombasa. So just look out and register for it if you're interested. See you next time. Have a good day. Have a good weekend, and all the best. Stay safe as we get into this electioneering period. And think about voting wisely for your next leadership, because as Mike says, it all starts at the top. Kwaheri and asanteni sana. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Martin. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.